From the Beaver County Auto Studios, it's another Penguins live chat. And by the way, Beaver County Auto will make a Beaver believer out of you. Hi, I'm Dan Kingerski. The Penguins live chat, it'll be on PittsburghHockeyNow.com. And this is, of course, Pittsburgh Sports Live. Thank you for joining us here as we get into 2019. It seems so weird to be this far along into the 21st century already. So here's what we'll talk about today. I want to get into the Penguins' 7-game winning streak because if you follow Mike Sullivan's comments closely, and I think you should, I always try to maybe be a little bit of an interpreter because I know when he's putting the positive face on things, and I kind of think I'm figuring out what he's really saying, although that can get me in a little bit of trouble. But by and large, I think I've got my Rosetta Stone on the situation. We'll talk about the 7-game win streak. I also want to talk about, of course, Evgeny Malkin, Phil Kessel, Derek Brassard. I'm going to toss a couple more logs on the fire. Jack Johnson, Olli Mata, their performances Wednesday night against the New York Rangers, and why that's a bit of an issue. We can also talk a little bit about the trade market because now that we're into January and we've got about 5.5, 6 weeks to go before the trade deadline, I think anything is fair game at this point. I appreciate everyone chatting with me here on YouTube. Do me a favor and click the subscribe button. Just down, I guess it'd be down right about there. Wait, yeah, that's the right side. I would have made a terrible weatherman. And the clouds over here, clouds over here. But click that subscribe button and get the notification so you can join the live chats as we go along. I'm going to share this to Twitter real quickly before we get into the meat and potatoes of this. But let's start with, I thought, just the feel-good story last night. And that would be this guy. Zach Aston Reese was an animal getting that goal. How cool would that be? And I don't know about you. This season, more than any other, I've been affected by the human element of everything. And let's see here. Yep, here is the setup to Zach Aston Reese's goal. Look, it's 2-on-4. But when one of those guys is Chris Letang, who has a head of steam, you see Letang on the top side there with the puck. That's Aston Reese on the bottom. Letang takes the puck down deep, literally in the first period. I don't think the Penguins had more than 10 seconds near the Rangers' goal line. It was generally brutal to watch the Penguins' first period. And here we are 6+ minutes into the second period, and they still really hadn't done anything of value or of note. Now, the Penguins got a little bit lucky in so much that the New York Rangers looked like they were ready for the golf course already. They were heading out to Anthony's or wherever you go after a game at Madison Square Garden. But, the Rangers really weren't that into it either. They could have put the Penguins away in the first period, if not for the play of Matt Murray. And we should probably talk about Matt Murray, too. An error of omission to include Murray in today's show. Let me share this chat to Facebook Live as we do this, too. Just want as many of you to hop on as we can, because we still need to get to 1,000 subscribers. We kept saying we hope to get there in December. Well, we didn't get there. Let's try to get there in January. So get us up over 1,000 in January, please. So anyway, you see Chris Letang here. Takes it, took the puck deep, set the whole play up as Matt Cullen and the rest of the crew came racing in. And I thought that was really the start of something, getting the Penguins going anything, although they were really helped out by some pretty poor goaltending by Henrik Lundqvist. It was Lundqvist might as well have played on the back stanchion of the net and just given the Penguins the goal line. I want to say hi to Brad, Medina, Ryan, and Ellen. Yeah, Ellen has the first Tanger for Norris trophy comment on, and I wanted to get to Chris Letang. So, Ellen, since you've brought that up on the chat here, let me dive right into a little bit of a related topic, and that is Chris Letang for the All-Star game. I think it is incumbent upon fans to get Letang into the game simply so that the national audience can hear the announcers say what a great first half of the season he's had. Don't underestimate the huge significance of that. If you want Chris Letang to win the Norris, and I would hope that Penguins fans do, I wonder, quite frankly, but I really think that this is the Penguins fans' chance to greatly affect something. So the voting opened at noon to that last man in. So dumb. Just pick the best, please. But anywho, so NHL.com, you can vote and pick your last man in. Crosby is in. Letang could be in, and those would be the two Penguins representatives, and that would be fair. I don't think Malkin, Kessel, even Gensel probably isn't necessarily worthy of the nod just yet. Let's see here. Brian says, did you see Sid give the autograph stick to the heckler next to the penalty box? Yeah, I just saw that before the show. Said some good chirps. I really like the player and the ambassador. That's the right word. I think the ambassador. I really like the ambassador that Sidney Crosby is becoming for the game. I'm kind of, I know I'm flying all around here. Before I'll get back to Chris Letang. Hold me to it, message board, that I'll get back to Letang and the Norris. I wasn't going to talk about my tweet that got ratioed yesterday with 200-plus angry, fist-shaking responses. And then the tweet last night got picked up by the 11 o'clock D.C. News. I don't know if it was NBC or CBS down there. I have some friends in D.C. The text started about 11:20. Hey, your tweets are on the news. I'm like, oh, no, here we go. Fortunately, it wasn't too bad. But, no, Washington, D.C. is not real happy with me today because I wasn't happy with Ovechkin skipping the All-Star game. Putting that aside, think of Sidney Crosby 5 years ago. Think of Sid 5 years ago and think of him today. Think of the captain he's become. Think of the gritty player he's become. Think of all of the evolutions for the positive of Sidney Crosby. Look, there was some legit question 4+ years ago if Crosby was too hard on coaches. Now, was it Larry Brooks who wrote in the New York Post that Crosby was a coach killer? That was a bit overkill. But look, there was talk about that in some hockey circles. Now look. Look how far Crosby has come. He's making the right kind of news. He's leading in the right ways. Not that he always wasn't a game of hockey first guy, but now he's really becoming that veteran ambassador as well as a great player, and I enjoy seeing that. Anyway, back to Mr. Chris Letang, shall we? Because we showed you the Zach Aston Reese goal that he set up. Now, let me, which one is it? This one. Look at Letang. 1-on-4. Charges into it. Noticed an opportunity, saw the Rangers wanting to change, and attacked the puck. Now, it helps. This is why the play worked, by the way. Count the Penguins behind Chris Letang. There's already 3 of them. So, look, if Letang whiffs on the puck, if the puck carrier spins away and keeps possession, Letang then chases him back, gets in position, no harm, no foul. This is what's it's a perfect calculated risk. And I think that is not to be understated as well. And you want to talk about evolution over the last 5 years or even the last 2 years. Chris Letang is, there's that one. Chris Letang. Put my name up, but not me. Chris Letang's evolution. Maybe last year, look, maybe I should write this as the thought pops into my head a little bit here during the live chat. Maybe last year was necessary. Maybe the silver lining to last year was going through that adversity, having to play a bit more simply, having to reel himself in. And so this year, he's not feeling as much pressure to go 200 feet unless it makes complete sense, like it did right there. As I say that out loud, it makes a lot of sense to me that from that growth of last year, we're seeing the very best Chris Letang. And yeah, I get accused of being a little bit of an apologist this year, which is hysterical. For those of you who've been with me for a few years, last year I got accused of being all Nancy negative. Before that, it's just, y'all got to make up your mind. Or maybe, just maybe I'm down the middle of the road, and as things change, I call it as I see it. I could never be that, could I? No, that would just be bad news. Yeah, Brad, on the message board, I wish I could have heard those chirps too. New York is a great place for chirping. New York, and believe it or not, Winnipeg is awesome, and Vancouver has a lot of youthful hockey fans who take pride in being very clever or creative. So, yeah. Thanks, Jack, for subbing. No, Jack, I'm not going to say your last name. Mr. Mehoff. Heather asks, will Chris Letang's enduring legacy in Pittsburgh be winning the Norris Trophy? No, I think it'll be Stanley Cups, Heather. Although I don't know, maybe you're taking a little bit of poke at me, and perhaps deserved, because my tweet after Game 6 of Round 2 last year was Chris Letang's enduring legacy is giving the puck up, and that awful series he had against Washington. If you had asked me in the days following that, I was actually convinced that was the end of Chris Letang's Penguins career. I was wrong. I hope you all can forgive me. I'll check my humanity at another time. It happens when you work without a safety net, right? Sometimes I'm just flat out wrong. And I was flat out wrong after Game 6 that would be Chris Letang's enduring legacy, because what he's doing this year is spectacular, Heather. Czar, love his average hits per game. Really, Ryan? I haven't noticed a lot of great totals. Even Jack Johnson's totals have come down. I'd like to see more from Aston Reese. I'd like to see, on an average night, 4 and 5. I think that's possible for him, although not so possible on the fourth line with 9 minutes. But when he's in the top 9, I'd like to see a handful. I think that would be his game. That stocky frame. Get in the corner, throw it around, and see what happens. Yep, I want to thank everyone. Appreciate it. Happy New Year to everyone, wishing me that as well, and to you too. Let's get into, like I said, the Chris Letang for Norris Trophy talk. Where is it? I thought I had a better... I know I had a better picture. Anyway, I guess I don't. I guess Mark Giordano is having a pretty solid season. Calgary is kind of getting into Stanley Cup contention, not just playoff contention. So obviously, he's going to have more of the Canadian sentiment, and that's going to be something to overcome for a player in Pittsburgh, not named Sidney Crosby, is kind of getting into that echo chamber in Toronto that seems to spread the opinion rather than being a part of making it. They seem to spread it. So that's definitely something that I think Penguins fans are going to have to push, and the All-Star game starts that. Ryan says, what do you think of the current Penguins lines? Do you think Malkin and Kessel should stay together? Ryan, thanks for the softball. No. 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 Here's why Malkin and Kessel shouldn't play together. They exacerbated each other's struggles. Now, you may look at Kessel and Brassard and say, you're not getting any production there. And you may look at Malkin right now, who last night, you can start to see it coming along a little bit. Say, there's not much production there. And that is true. But apart, there's not the destruction as well. What the Penguins had with Malkin and Kessel together was essentially two lines that were self-destructing. Now they've kind of confined or eliminated the destruction. If Malkin and Simone aren't really producing one night, they're not a liability. And I think you've seen in the last couple games that Brassard and Kessel are just forcing themselves to not be a liability. I think eventually, and this is what I wrote yesterday on PittsburghHockeyNow.com, Kessel has to lead that third line, Brad. And the reason I say that is that's Kessel's, his true swing, his real game is to carry the puck, is to fly along the wall, to push the defenders, to create space. If the defenders try to sag or give him the wall, he steps into the circle and rips that wrist shot. That is lethal. And if they cover him, you see what happens when he set up Riley Sheahan for the goal in Minnesota. He's got good enough playmaking skills, underrated playmaking skills, where he can set up his teammates. I think the Penguins have it right now. No, and plus, when you put Malkin and Kessel together, and you're kind of, I'm going to step in it a little bit here and upset some people, but it's just the truth. When they get together, they have the ability to sidetrack the rest of the team because they start wanting to play a different brand of hockey, and that becomes contagious. By separating them, that contagion is eliminated as well. The destruction, the contagion, however you want me to phrase it. So, no, Brad. Bud Moonshine joined me. That's my name, by the way, goofball. Did your radio-trained ears pick up any piped-in crowd noise in any other arena? Well, isn't that funny, douchebag? So let's get on to some of the other... I knew some crap was coming today. It was almost the reason I did the show was to see what would fly. So those are about the pictures I've got live. Let me see if I can pull up my laptop feed, because I do want to get into a little bit of the trade market. Darren Dreger dropped it last night. Look, the Rangers are going to have that big fire sale, right? It's impossible to avoid at this point. They're bubbling as competitive for a while. It's just not going to last. And so Matt Zuccarello becomes a trade target. Kevin Shattenkirk, his name has been floated by Larry Brooks as someone, because he's got 2 years left at a high value. Could the Rangers deal him as an almost a blue chip trade prospect? And look, Jim Rutherford looked at him a couple years ago when he was acquired by Washington, right? Some of the years run together. But that's so then you start drawing all these lines to the Rangers. That, Rangers, Kevin Hayes. Drager said that the Rangers have not yet made a decision on Kevin Hayes. But there's another guy would look very good in black and gold. That kind of speed and that kind of game could look a lot better than where he's currently at. And those are the things I think as the trade deadline approaches. And there's about to be a seismic quake in St. Louis. There just is. There's more noise about Peter Angelo. I don't know, and I'm just full disclosure, I do not know, as we talk about the trade market, how much of the St. Louis noise is legit and how much of it is tertiary internet sites stirring things up. I just don't know. When I see a good trade rumor, I always check the source. And if it's not one of the big reporters, a beat writer in town or one of the national beat writers, I always take it with a giant grain of salt. And so I always understand, like, when, we've got a back door into the Penguins front office that we occasionally get some cool stuff. And I understand if people are like, okay, who's Pittsburgh hockey now? I fully understand that because I do the same thing when I'm checking a lot of other stuff. And so I don't know what's in St. Louis and how serious it is. All right, keep those chats coming. Also, if you could, like and share it. Let's spread the word today. Everyone's still off this week. Literally, there was no traffic on the roads this morning. I walked to work, and I just cruised on through downtown. We are in downtown Pittsburgh, by the way. Bud Moonshine, come on, Bud Moonshine on the message board. Get your own name. That was mine. That's actually, I still own it, by the way. Can you all see the Dunkin' Donuts logo? There, I feel like a NASCAR driver. I have to stand here and tilt. Let's get into Matt Murray just a little bit as well here. I kind of feel like this is one of those days where I've talked about everything, and I should get into the 7-game win streak too, and we'll do that. But let's talk about Matt Murray. His last 2 games have been spectacular. And you don't need me to tell you that. You've seen it for yourself. But let me compare and contrast, because Murray's now won 6 in a row. The first few, he made some big saves. And I think those are confidence boosters. I had asked Matt before he went on IR. So it would have been mid-November or so. After, he's coming back, I think it was from the concussion. And he'd kind of been benched for 3 games. Smith had that second 3-game run. And I was, is it a moment that's going to turn things around? Matt, he said he doesn't believe in moments. And that struck me as odd. Because you make a big save, you have to feel a little bit better about things. But you get through the last couple games when he's been absolutely stand up tall, cast a shadow on the net. And when he does that, when he gets big to shooters, suddenly those big flaws become very small. That glove hand that can be picked on a little bit, suddenly there's no space to pick at the glove side because he's too big. And you don't have 4 feet to shoot at. You've got 4 inches, and not even that. And, unless you're Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid or so, you're not going to pick that, the piggy bank slot. That's what made Murray really great last night, and that's probably the deciding factor, right? If Murray isn't great in the first period, it's 2-0, maybe 3-0 Rangers. And the Penguins had no legs last night. That's even Sullivan said it. Didn't have any intensity, and he didn't have much compete level, and they didn't have their legs. They just got goals. They just happened to convert every single opportunity they had. So I'm going to transition here to talk about the Penguins' 7-game win streak. I think in 2 of the last 3 games, they've been outplayed. They were outplayed 5-on-5 in St. Louis, and they were outplayed last night for the first, 30 minutes anyway, by the New York Rangers. At 4-1, I thought the Rangers said, no. It got to be 5-2, and the Rangers thought about a comeback, but they couldn't sustain it. So in 2 of the last 3 games, they've won by blowout margins. 6-1 over St. Louis, 7-2 over the New York Rangers, yet they were outplayed 5-on-5. And this is actually why the Penguins winning is sustainable. I know you're like, wait, Dan, I thought you were going a whole different direction. Because the Penguins are finding different ways to win. And that is why the win streak is sustainable. Because the power play is going to come and go. Last night it was kind of brutal until they got a goal late. But the first unit last night just wasn't there. And it is like trying to train a cat. There's no rhyme or reason for why the power play is extraordinary one game and dog meat the next, but it's just a fact of life. So as the power play comes and goes, and by the way, we should do an entire show someday on the importance of the power play in the regular season, but the importance of 5-on-5 scoring in the playoffs. Huge difference. I wrote a bit about that on the PHN blog yesterday, just trying to introduce some of those old school topics that I think sometimes get lost in the shuffle. But the bedrock of winning, goaltending, defensive effort, and 5-on-5 scoring, the Penguins have been getting that as well. St. Louis, they didn't need it, but they needed it against New York, and they got it. They got it in Minnesota, courtesy of Phil Kessel. They got the goaltending. Casey DeSmith and Matt Murray have been lights out, shut down. And the defensive effort, not just the defensemen, but the defensive effort from the team has been pretty good as well. It's been at least better than the opponents. How's that? Jack Johnson and Ole Mata. And I'm loath to criticize Jack Johnson because it always seems to, it brings out people like the people who just don't want to admit that he's had a pretty decent season. But when he plays badly, I told you he sucks. And that's why I'm loath to criticize him, because it just brings out so much incorrect opinion and it feeds it. It's fuel for it. Let me have some comments here. So I don't give Jack Johnson a pass on his performances, but I don't want to feed the stupid opinions sometimes, the really just hardcore stubbornness. And so, but last night, Johnson was hard-handed in his own zone, too. He's got to make better first passes. And last night I thought he was missing a lot of them, especially in the first 30 minutes. They were scrambling, he and Pedersen. Although Pedersen, I thought, played pretty well, which maybe helped Johnson out a bit. And Oli Mata. Someone sent me a DM last night that Oli Mata, it's like, you're the only one who's criticizing Oli Mata right now. Thank you. And I cringed. Because there again, there is a narrative that I know a lot of fans want to push that Oli Mata isn't an NHL defenseman, or Oli Mata should be traded because he's terrible. You don't trade terrible. You don't usually get the trade terrible players, by the way. But look, the Penguins still have a great deal of confidence in Oli Mata. He was rough last night. He turned his hips wrong on a couple rushes. That was, I'm not one to notice physical technique of defensemen very often, but it was glaring that even I noticed it, where he opened up the wrong way, thus allowing the back door to be open, and the Rangers took advantage, got deep a couple of times. So Mata needs to play a little bit better as well. Now the Penguins have a decision tomorrow night, because Jamie Alexiak is ready to get back into the lineup. Now, Mata and Alexiak were struggling, so I see why the Penguins have kind of made him number 7 right now. But it's probably time to get him back in the lineup. Is it Riikola that comes out? Is it Mata? Is it Johnson? Because Alexiak can play both sides. And do I actually have... no, I guess I didn't snare the picture of the Rangers' second goal last night. When Riikola lost his man behind the net, Mata went behind the net to pick up Riikola's man. Brassard didn't crash low, and there it was, 2 guys standing unabated in the crease. And that was Bushnevich's goal. So... I think Alexiak draws in. If I were to sit one based on the last couple of games, I probably would. I would probably give Johnson a seat, just because I think the last couple of games. And look, Mata, Johnson, Alexiak, they're all quality NHL defensemen. So it's not like I'm saying scratch Johnson because he's bad. I'm just saying it's probably time to put Alexiak in, and Johnson might be scuffling a little bit. It wouldn't be a scratch as punishment. It would be a scratch to get Alexiak in the door. I think Alexiak brings a lot to the table physically, and he can skate with the puck a little better than the other guys, too. Let's see here. Flubert, how the Penguins play after the winning streak going to be very important. That's actually a very good point. You can't lose 5 in a row then. You can't take a breath after you've won 7, 8, 9, 10 in a row and then give back 5 of them. The Penguins already gave them back in November. So this is almost that makeup that they have to keep going. Ellen says that our colleagues over at the Post-Gazette, Jason Mackey, just put out an article making Sid's solid case for the Selke Trophy. Sid has received notoriously little consideration for that, even though he guards the opponent's top line almost every night. Maybe it's time. I don't think Datsuk got a lot of consideration until a little bit later in his career as well. Maybe that's a veteran thing that they won't give to young guys. And Bergeron's injury this year certainly opens the door for someone else to win it. Let's see here. Yep, if you can win while being outplayed, you should win when you're outplaying the opposition, but I guess that wasn't true for the Rangers or the Blues. Hockey's a funny game, man. There's just, what do you do? The Penguins are a good team. I've been telling you this since training camp, right? the Penguins have something. Putting all the pieces of the puzzle together is an entirely different matter. And Sullivan has done, I think, a masterful job at using the first half of the season to get to the second half. And that's where we stand right now. What are the Penguins now? 20-12-2? Is that right? That's off the top of my head. So they're 34, 35 games into the season. Or is it 12-6? So yeah, they should be getting close to 40 games, actually. I think, was it 20, 12, and 6? So that would be 38. There's that public university math coming through. Let's see what else we got here. Trying to find any more questions here. I don't want to skip anybody over because today's it's when the Penguins are winning. There's really not much to hammer right now. There's not much to dissect. The opponents aren't scoring any goals. The Penguins have allowed 5 goals in the last 5 games. So I can't even say, okay, look at this play. The Penguins made a mistake here. It's been peaceful and quiet, which isn't necessarily great for talk shows. That's for sure. So I'm going to put the last call in for questions. So hop those on to the top chat there. And for those of you who watch this later, do me a favor. Here's what you want to do. You want to subscribe to Pittsburgh Sports Live and enable notifications. So that way, when I go live, I'm actually the only one on the channel who goes live and does these live chats. So you won't get 1,000 notifications just for me, my beautiful unshaven face. And so you can participate in the chat. And it's a lot more fun when I know a lot of you are around. Okay, Ryan, 22-12-6. So that's 34-40 games. So that means tomorrow night is the official halfway point. Maybe I should give a stick tap to Mike Sullivan. I kind of indirectly did. Juggling the defense as he has, he and Jacques Martin. And the forward lines have been no picnic. Figuring out how to make Malkin and Kessel happy, figuring out how to get the best from his team, figuring out how to give enough puck to Derek Brassard. And eventually, I think what Sullivan has done is said, okay, I gave you guys what you wanted. Didn't work. Now you're doing it my way. It's pretty tough to argue that, isn't it? When you're given what you want and it doesn't work. The last game and a half or so, the Penguins' third line, Pearson, Brassard, Kessel. Although I guess for you, it's Pearson, Brassard, Kessel. They were the Penguins' best line for a good portion last night, and that was really primarily Phil Kessel's doing. I thought he's showing that speed, and he's showing a bit of the determination that we see late in the season, last year not included. So I've got no criticisms of Phil Kessel. I've got praise for Phil Kessel. And that makes for a short show, doesn't it? Although I imagine that a lot of you would watch me praise Phil Kessel for 2 hours. No, he's skating. He's skating with the puck. He's attempting shots. He's making very good passes. He's playing away from the puck, and that's one of the big things that he was not doing with Derek Brassard. I'm going to get in trouble for this roundabout I'm about to do as well. When they first put Kessel on Brassard's line, he stopped at the offensive blue line. He quit. It was painful to watch. Brassard and Zach Aston Reese were playing very hard, and Kessel kind of didn't join in their reindeer games. But whether he kind of didn't gel with it, was zigging when he should have zagged, it looked, and I never want to say a player was disinterested. I hate when people criticize a player's motivation. It looked like Kessel was just out of it. A few games later, Kessel turned it up, but Brassard was Brassard was the guy who then looked disinterested or kind of just out of sorts. Maybe now, they can play nice together and they can work hard and work together. If the Penguins get that third line humming, oh boy. And then maybe I will, if I were in a GM's chair for the Penguins, and I never, ever will be, Matt Zuccarello would be my number one target. I think he would fit beautifully with the Penguins' second or third line. He's a lot grittier than his, 5'8", 5'9"? A lot grittier than that stature would be. And I know some people are like looking at Gustav Nyquist in Detroit, who was on the trading block or rumored to eventually be available. If that makes any sense. Like, there are players who are going to be available. Nyquist was on that list, but how can Detroit really afford to lose a guy who's going to score 60 points this year? I don't think Nyquist will be on the block over the next 6 weeks, but I could be wrong. And if he is, I don't think the Penguins can afford him. So I cross him off the list, and I come back. And if Kevin Hayes hops on the list, if the Rangers decide that they will indeed part with Kevin Hayes, then heck yes. Those, I think Zuccarello and Hayes, either one, would improve the Penguins, improve their Stanley Cup chances, and return to a bit of their former identity with that speed, that gritty speed. So let's see here. My Beaver signs are crooked, are they? Yeah, a little bit, Mr. Duclair. Any more solid opinion on Johnson, asks Mutation. Well, I guess I addressed this a little bit earlier, but the last couple games, I haven't liked Johnson's play. Just he's missing the simple passes. His physical numbers have gone down as well. So, how do I feel about Malkin's play as of late? Malkin is just fighting it, isn't he? Even last night, he dances around two defensemen. He gets a goal. And he didn't even shoot the puck. Maybe that's the omen, right? Maybe that's the thing that gets dominant Malkin back. The thing about Malkin's play as of late, Amanda, are the turnovers. Good grief, he's got to cut those down. Maybe they're more noticeable when he's not scoring or not playing as well. But the constant, the nightly turnovers at the blue lines are, those are killers in the playoffs. Those are the kinds of things that turn series in the playoffs. He's got to force himself to get in the habit. You can't turn your back on the offensive zone at the blue line. You're toast at that point. Crosby went through that some years ago as well, where for a good chunk of a season, he kept trying to make the big play at the top of the zone, turning his back, control the puck, and he just got stripped way too often. Malkin is now kind of in that same that same stubborn mindset where they're trying to make that play at the top of the zone. Just dump it. Just put the puck to open space, down low, let your wingers. Dominic Simone is a great puck pursuit guy. Patrick Hornquist is a gritty guy in the corner as well. Put it into open space, let them get after it, and see where the chips fall. He's got to get into that habit. Do I think Rutherford will make any more trades soon? Yeah, actually, I do. I have no intel on that. None. So don't take it as I'm reporting anything. January is Jim Rutherford's prime time. Traditionally, this is when he swings his great deals, is January. So that's the reason I say yes. I feel like the Penguins are looking at their win streak and they're now dealing from a position of strength, but also dealing from a position where they've got to be looking at Tampa Bay and saying, holy crap, these guys are good. I think the Penguins could take Toronto in a 7-game series. Oh, it would be wonderfully competitive and fun. I think the Penguins are physically stronger than Toronto and could use that to their advantage. I don't think the Penguins are necessarily much stronger than Tampa, and I think Tampa is faster and deeper. Certainly amazingly deep, wonderfully deep on defense is Tampa, and Vasilevsky is stopping everything like a beach ball. So the Penguins have to be looking at Tampa as their benchmark and looking to get better. So I would say in order, Mr. Pruitt, a puck-moving defenseman would be on the top of my list. A winger. And you know, the Penguins can go a couple different ways with the winger. They can go for more scoring for the Malkin line, if it would make sense stylistically, or they can go with a gritty guy like Zuccarello. They've got options there, based on price, based on availability, etc., etc. Hey, Leaf Dog, how are you? Just hopped on here. Could you see Zach Aston Reese taking on a Kunitz-like role in the future? Does he have that skill set? He's not the skater that Chris Kunitz was. Kunitz's great strength was skating. Even in the end, Kunitz's ability to get there, even as his hands kind of hardened, and you know, those big goal droughts for Kunitz, his feet still got there, and there were chances. Aston Reese is a bit of a different player. His feet are greatly improved from 1 year ago. They really are. His skating is significantly better than it was. I don't know if he can continue to improve or if he's reaching his ceiling. Maybe he doesn't know that yet. I don't, and I also reject the Hornquist comparison too. I know some fans like to go there because the Penguins themselves made that comparison early on. Aston Reese is not as crazy as Hornquist. And in that craziness are those ferocious net front battles which annoy the daylights out of opponents. I don't think Aston Reese is that guy yet. I don't know that he will. I think his natural place on the team would be as a third-line guy with some grit and some offensive pop. 10, 15, let's say 15 goals a season would be where you'd like to see him. 15 goals, 25 assists. You give him 40 points a season with his penalty-killing prowess and the physicality that he can bring. I think the Penguins would be quite happy with that. Anything beyond that would be, a boat of gravy for sure. Hoffman or Zuccarello would be, Hoffman. I guess, yeah, talking about a scoring winger, but there again, there's going to be a big market for Hoffman. Can the Penguins afford that? Because, don't forget, a team that's rebuilding, that's willing to deal a high-scoring winger, right? And just really kind of lock this into the back of your mind. A team that's going to deal a guy like Hoffman doesn't want a 30, 31-year-old free agent to be center in return. They want to get younger, faster, better, cheaper prospects, high picks, or talent, commensurate talent that they have control over in return. And that's where the Penguins are going to fall short in a lot of these trade talks, is that the Penguins really don't have a lot to give. Olli Mata, we have been told, this was almost 2 months ago now, so it's old information. The Penguins weren't shopping Olli Mata, but he could be had if the Penguins could get better. And that was maybe a little bit of a change from previous thinking. Let's see here. What about the last? Oh, don't forget to vote for Tanger in the last man vote. I want to see Chris Letang in the All-Star game. I really do. I'm enjoying the comeback story, poking at me as some might for the tweet last year. Man, people are perfect on social media, aren't they? No one's ever made a bad prediction or had opinion that turned out to just not be in the right ballpark. I own it. I owned it then. I own it now. I'm glad to be wrong on that Chris Letang tweet from last May. Happily wrong. And if Chris Letang ever asked me about it, I would tell him straight up how pleased I am to see him having fun playing hockey. It was tough to see him last year. I mean, truly, I've been in a few locker rooms in my day, and I've seen some dejected guys. I've been in the minors, having breakfast with the boys or, on the long bus rides and guys coming to grips with, second-round picks, coming to grips with, is this my career? And I've seen that depression. And I saw it in Chris Letang last year. I saw that darkness I saw him fighting it. How's that? I don't want to say eating at him. That would be maybe too dramatic. But I saw him questioning himself. It's nice to see a fellow human being just spread the wings and go for it, right? All right, so that is going to do it. We've done I did 15 more minutes after I said last call. Hey, I appreciate all of you. I know it's a holiday week, and I know our numbers are going to be down next week. Hopefully, when everyone's back at work full time, we'll have a lot more to get to, and a lot more of you will be here. Until then, kids, I am happy to say Happy New Year, and so many of you are such a big part of my life. Believe it or not, I mean, I don't know if you know how much I'm putting into all of this, and it's not necessarily just because it needs to be done. It's because I enjoy it, and I enjoy our interactions, and that's part of the fuel that keeps me going. You can tell I'm scruffy. I was moving in December until I got a note that my new place wasn't going to be ready until February 1st. So I've got 2 giant storage lockers full of stuff, and I'm staying in an Airbnb place. The only one I could grab on such short notice with a couple of surgical residents. And I don't want to hog the bathroom for half an hour to shave and get blood everywhere. So I'm going to have a beard for a good while, it looks like. Cheers. We will talk again real soon. Hit me up on Twitter at the Dan Kingerski. Subscribe and hit the notifications and spread the word if you like what we do. We certainly appreciate doing it for you. We'll talk again real soon, kids.